The 2010 Schooling the World film draws attention to how mass schooling is undermining traditional cultural values in developing countries, a view which is emphasised by Escobar, who argues that this method of development is a regime of representation that systematically portrays the developing world as backwards and deficient. Mass schooling has the capability to prevent students from speaking their native languages, displaces their traditional ways of living in an agricultural network, and equates success to overseas employment. The film goes on to discuss how the expansion of extensively similar curriculums can hinder the development of individuality to the extent that people are trained to apply for similar jobs which are themselves limited due to the high demand. A view which is emphasised by Larry Ray in his book Globalisation and Everyday Life, where he goes on to suggest that globalisation has reconstituted the concept of the social itself, transforming economical and political and cultural institutions and even the manner in which we think about ourselves and imagine our futures. This opinion can be seen to highlight how globalisation may be viewed as a concept that has both positive and negative effects. A potential positive being how globalisation has arguably brought to light underlying issues with gender discrimination in India, an issue which will be discussed further with a particular focus on the impact of globalisation on girls' education.
Gender inequality was identified as a prominent issue in education in India, with women often being viewed as inferior beings who were unequal to men. However, in the book A History of Education in India and Pakistan, Key identifies how in ancient times women in India had much greater independence and social standing than they have now. The position of women changed, however, due to development in the growth of large-scale agriculture, which led to the position of the women's role in the family to be replaced with industrial models of production. Now, men have a much higher status than women, to the extent that the only education that women would receive would be one related to their household duties. This presents us with the question, why is the Indian education system delivered in this way? India remains a patriarchal society in which, despite schools being available, girls do not attend because of cultural pressures and religious reasons. However, according to World Bank 2014, free residential schools are becoming more available for girls, and due to the fact that parents do not have to pay, more girls from rural and traditional villages have greater opportunities to attend and gain a second chance at an education.
While globalisation can be seen to have aided the education reform movement in 1990, which indicated that education for girls was an important part of social justice, the progress of achieving girls' education has been limited. 3 out of 5 girls receive primary education in comparison to 3 out of 4 boys, and consequently girls are not receiving equal access to primary education, particularly in rural India. According to the 2009 Right to Education Act, schooling in India is free and compulsory for all children aged 6 to 14. Regardless of this, disadvantaged groups, and particularly girls, still do not have adequate access to education. Therefore, girls are not achieving equality, again posing the question why.
In the book, Gender, Schooling and Global Social Justice, Unterhalter identifies how the exclusion of girls from schooling can take a range of forms. Some girls are never enrolled because the financial and social costs of schooling are too high, the quality of learning is too low, or there is simply no school available locally. Sometimes there are no schools available in the poorest communities, poverty being one of the major factors in the denial of school for girls. The impact of poverty on girls' education is more shocking when Unterhalter draws attention to the fact that schooling is often cheaper for boys. Their uniform is usually cheaper, and boys are perceived as being less vulnerable, therefore needing less transport to be provided. The need for transport for girls can be associated with another major concern regarding girls' education, eve-teasing. This is when girls are harassed by boys, often on their long journeys to and from school. Girls tend to not tell their parents or report the incidents, rightly fearing that they would get the blame. When parents discover the incident, it is usually the girl who is banned from attending school, as the family honour would be affected if she was sexually assaulted. Even more alarmingly, violence against women is on the rise, and the selective abortion of female fetuses has led to a drop in the male-to-female ratio. A shocking fact which further emphasises the impact education can have on girls. A girl understanding her body can make the difference between an unwanted pregnancy and an illegal abortion.
Education is the only way a girl can become an informed citizen and have her voice heard in society. Yet, while the number of girls attending schools in India has increased, especially in primary schools, multiple factors still limit the education they receive. In 2005, UNESCO's Global Monitoring Report highlighted 72 countries that had less than 90% of primary school-aged girls in school. The World Declaration highlighted that girls and women comprise 2/3 of the large numbers of children without access to primary school and the large numbers of adults without literacy. In India in 2008, 62% of all out-of-school children were girls, and they make up 2/3 of the illiterate 15 to 24-year-olds.
Men argued that development should be measured in terms of freedoms, opportunities and rights of individuals. Rostow believed that investments in education, combined with infrastructure and democratic governance, would put countries on a take-off path that would create economic growth, industrialisation and increase living standards. In order to enter onto this take-off path, 4 predominant issues which hinder Sen's ideas of development need to be addressed. These 4 issues are:
family responsibilities. Girls are expected to provide free home labour in an environment where they learn to become future housewives, and often decisions cannot be made without them consulting their elders.
Family honour. The families of boys involved in marriage negotiations can raise the dowry if they suspect that the girl has been attending school with boys throughout their puberty. Although dowries are illegal in India, they are still an issue which affect families, especially in rural areas.
School facilities. Schools are unable to provide safe and sanitary facilities for young girls, as the priority for new facilities is given to boys. In addition, schools are often impacted by infrastructural problems, with water and electricity being limited and preventing the ability for teachers to provide lessons.
And finally, the shortage of female teachers. An issue which could be solved, but one which starts with first educating girls so that they can aspire to be teachers.
Yet Steger identifies that while globalisation has the potential to reshape society, the transformation process is one which is never easy.
Focusing on challenging existing gender conceptions and tackling the predominant issues preventing education equality will enable India to gain an increased understanding of the importance of education and allow them to see that education is not preparation for life, education is life itself. A good starting point would be to address those 4 key issues as discussed previously, as they are connected to key areas which, when overcome, would enable the education system to improve for the benefit of both boys and girls, ensuring education in India can bridge the gap in equality.